My name is Billy McPeak. I am the senior pastor at Olive Wood Church, located in Conway, Arkansas. My story begins many years ago as a young man in ministry. I felt God's call upon my life, and not knowing which way to go, I consulted the instruction of my senior pastor at the time, and he said, just begin to feel out what God has for your life. And so consequently, I just began to work in youth ministry and children's ministry. Actually took on responsibilities, leadership in nursing homes and services there, and got involved in jail ministry for a while. And then I became a youth pastor. And then beyond that, I was an assistant pastor at a church in Bryant, Arkansas for a while. Then took a senior pastor role, and that brought me to where I am today. I remember going to my pastor and sitting with him, sharing my heart with him. It wasn't something that he had put into my life. It was something that God had actually been downloaded into my heart. And I just told him, I said, I don't know what God's calling me to. You know, I was able to sing, couldn't play any instruments. And preaching was, the farthest thing from my mind, in that I was afraid of crowds and afraid of giving speeches before people. So that wasn't something that I really felt like I was qualified for. But, God takes those things that we don't feel qualified to and qualifies us for it. I think it's more spiritual than anything. I think if we get caught up in the physical, we would not so much find the appreciation that we need. But at the end of the day, the benefit of working here is pretty much you see lives changed. And that's what it's all about, seeing lives changed. I would definitely say it was a calling and not something that I just sought out for myself. And I would actually recommend that anyone getting into the ministry do so by a God call upon their life to be involved in that. So I've learned the importance of the Word of God in your life. And David said, "Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee." So the importance of the Word is that word hidden can change and allow you to grow in areas where you would not have grown before. And it allows me to see personal growth on many different levels, spiritually, physically, even financially, because the Lord's able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all we ask or think. It's very rewarding to be a pastor. It's got its difficult times. You think that you've got all the answers, but you don't, in regard to being able to define everything that needs to be answered. But in the end game, God's in control, and God can use you to do great things. I encourage anyone who's just thinking of getting into the ministry to really feel that out and to make sure that is what your calling is. If that is your calling, there's no way to run from it. So just embrace it and allow God to bring the increase into your life. Even in the ministry here, I can think of, maybe on a prayer week, where we said we want to be there for 2 hours. There were always those that were there early, and they stayed late and volunteered to be there when I couldn't be there. And so when you think of a servant's heart in that manner, it is, as Jesus said, going that extra mile. We've always had those that do that. One of our assistant pastors who years ago in another church, I had asked him between the morning service and the evening service to fill up the baptistry for a baptismal service that night. And so he was filling the baptistry up, and he forgot that the water was filling, and came back a little later. He had flooded the whole back end of the church. And, maybe not funny at the moment, but it's funny today when we look back on it. I'm looking forward to a great move of God, as any pastor would. And in saying that, it's about, God changing the lives of people and them being all that God's called them to be, and seeing the potential that they have in their own lives. And so I think from the very beginning, it's always been that. And I think if we think anything different than that, it would be out of line with what the Word of God calls us to. And so I'm looking really forward to seeing what God's going to do in the future. God's called me to do it, and I've been changed by the life that He's put inside me.